Hi there, folks. This is Mike from Defending 2A. That's right. I believe in defending the Second Amendment. It was there for a purpose. Remember what I said in earlier videos. It says right to bear arms. It doesn't say right to bear muskets. So I never want to hear the argument that the forefathers never thought that the gun would progress and be better or anything like that, because that's why they said bear arms. All right. Anyway, as you can see in my message, what are the Democrats planning to do with the Supreme Court? Folks, let me give you a little history here, okay? Number of members of the Supreme Court is currently 9. That is not set by the Constitution. Congress determines that. A little different. I mean, it still has to get passed by the Congress and by the Senate, and then voted on by the president, but it can be overrode if the president vetoes. Let me go through some history of the Supreme Court. In 1789, we did 6 justices. All right. Then 1807 it was increased to 7. You probably want an odd number. Then 1837 it went to 9, which is where we're at now. But in 1863 they went to 10 during the Civil War. Then in 1866 reduced to 7 to limit President Andrew Johnson's appointment power. And then in 1869 it restored it back up to 9, which is where it's been ever since. There's been a couple changes been tried. FDR tried in 1937, was unsuccessful and stuff like that. But we currently have 9, and that's important. Let's talk about what happened. Supreme Court ruled in the Bruen decision in 2022 that Justice Clarence Thomas threw out the old means ends scrutiny standard and replaced it with the standard that requires the government to show historical precedents for gun control. So, in other words, hey, we're having some mass shootings instead of diving at the real problem. We can ban guns to justify the means. All right. Well, they threw that precedent out and they said, no, you got to have the historical precedents for gun control. And then there's been all kinds of lawsuits and we've been winning ever since 2022. Great. And mostly on there, we're winning like votes 6-3. There's 6 conservative judges on there that believe the Second Amendment means what the Second Amendment means, and there's 3 that don't. All right. That's fine. So now you're asking me, what is the Democrats planning on doing? Democrats are planning on winning as many seats as possible in the Congress, and then saying we don't want 9 justices, we want 13, and also all the subgroups to go with it. So what does that mean? All right, if they are now becoming into power, the Democrats, if they do, and they get to pick who becomes justices, they pick 4 conservatives. We were in a 6-3. Now where you lose 7-6, and all those gun rights that we had, and finally the Supreme Court was backing us up, they all go away. That would be. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that would be. Gun rights for sure. Nation's borders, degeneracy in our public school. Roe versus Wade could come right back. All that stuff that we gained and did and rightly done can be erased because Democratic Congress says, I want 4 more justices. And boom, now we're out. So, please, the Supreme Court is very important to us, okay? It is needed. And the Supreme Court right now is in favor of the 2A. Most of the things they're voting on is in favor of the 2A. We like the 2A. I'll give you an example. There's a town in Missouri, and I can't remember the name of the town, hasn't had a murder in almost 20 years. 20 years without a homicide case. All of a sudden, this guy took a gun, went to a shopping center, killed somebody, and wounded somebody else. There were 2 people there that were concealed carry guns. They went towards the guy. Now, I don't know the details if they were hiding behind a car or, whatever it was. but they never fired a shot, and they stopped that shooter from continuing to shoot. So you never know when something's going to happen. You don't want to be on the side of, man, I wish I would have brought my gun today. And you definitely don't want to be on the side of, boy, I hope the cops get here in time because I'm not allowed to have a gun, but they are. And I got to protect my family and myself and stuff like that from a crazed madman who doesn't abide by the law. He wouldn't be killing you in the first place if he abided by the law. There's a law against that. So please think when you vote this November. We want conservatives in there in the Congress so they don't get their way of making this go up to 13 and then getting 4 more in there that are just going to stop the guns, open the borders. Roe versus Wade come back. I'm against abortion because abortion is murder in my mind. It's just legalized murder. And we're trying, Roe versus Wade was a start, but all it did was to push it down to the states. But anyway, that's a little sidebar, extra bonus. Don't worry about that. Anyway, I thank you for taking time to look at this. If you have any other thoughts and concerns about the Second Amendment or any other rights that are being destroyed, please let me know. I would be glad to answer them. And, well, I always want to say this. God bless you and have a great day.